They called it a backwater world. Yara Prime wasn't on any major star charts, barely merited a passing scan by most merchant vessels. A blue-green dot nestled in an asteroid field, marked uninhabited. That was by design. The boy was called Ilian. He didn't know his real surname, just Ilian. He chopped wood, carried water, tended the goats, and read old Earth books under the cracked dome of a derelict observatory. He never questioned why he couldn't leave the forest, why the stars were off limits. His grandmother had raised him with strict rules and even stricter silence. She was stern, strange, and impossibly fast for a woman her age. She called herself the crone. She never told him her name. Names, she said, had power. Ilian's days were quiet until the sky cracked. It started with a buzzing in the air, like every particle was vibrating in fear. Birds vanished. The goats screamed and fled. Then, from above, a fracture in the clouds. Sleek black vessels dropped with surgical silence. No broadcast, no warnings, no insignia, just one purpose. They weren't pirates. Pirates make demands. These were Imperial assassins, and they didn't come to talk. Ilian saw the first one materialize from thin air, phasing out of some stealth field. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, draped in reflective armor, plasma rifle aimed directly at his chest. He should have died right then, but the world didn't agree. The ground beneath him surged. Vines shot up and wrapped around the assassin's legs. A gust of wind pushed Ilian sideways just as a pulse shot shattered the space he'd been standing in. The air turned sharp, metallic, and the forest came alive. Ilian ran, guided not by instinct but by something older, something deeper. Paths opened where none had been. Doors and trees. Rocks that rolled. An old well that led to a tunnel he'd never seen before. Behind him, explosions bloomed. Screams followed. Not his. By the time he reached the shelter beneath the observatory, a dozen black-armored bodies lay broken in the forest above. He hadn't killed them, but something had. He sat in the dark, breath shallow, listening. His hands trembled, but not from fear. From energy. He felt charged, like something in him had opened. A floodgate cracked wide. Then, her voice. Calm. Cold. I told you they'd come. The crone stood at the top of the stairs, staff in one hand, her other arm bleeding from a gash across her shoulder. She didn't flinch, didn't wince, just looked at him. You survived. Good. Ilian didn't speak. Couldn't. His world had tilted. Nothing made sense. The crone walked slowly toward him and dropped something at his feet. The shattered helmet of one of the assassins. Its visor flickered, revealing a partial scan of his face. They knew what you looked like, she said, but not what you were. Ilian swallowed. What am I? Her gaze softened just slightly. Not yet what you will be, but enough to scare them. He tried to ask more, but she raised a hand. No time. More will come. This was only a probe. They don't understand yet, but they will. He stared at the helmet, at his own face reflected in its cracked glass. Nothing about him looked dangerous. He was just a boy. Just Ilian. You need to remember something, the crone said, stepping close. The Empire believes it owns the stars, that it has erased every threat. But it forgot the one truth every shadow fears. She leaned in, eyes like burning coals. Monsters have mothers. And then she turned, disappearing into the shadows of the tunnel behind her. Ilian followed, and somewhere above them, in the void between systems, an Imperial signal pulsed across the stars. Target failed to terminate. Reassessing threat profile. They had no idea what they just missed. Ilian moved through the underground channels like he'd lived there all his life. The path beneath the river led into the roots of the mountain, a place no one had spoken of, yet he knew where to go. Something inside him, dormant until now, guided his feet. At the end of a winding passage, he found a sealed chamber, smooth metal unlike anything on Yara Prime. It opened at his touch. Inside, the walls pulsed faint blue. Dustless. Waiting. A voice played, not in sound but directly in his mind. His grandmother's voice, younger, sharper. If you're hearing this, then you've survived the first test. Good. You'll have questions. The first is simple. I am Baba Yaga. He didn't move. You know me only as the crone. That was necessary. I had to keep you hidden, even from yourself. But the moment has arrived, and so must the truth. Ilian, you are not just human. You are humanity's legacy. You are my son. She paused, as if letting the weight settle. The galaxy remembers humanity as a footnote, a dangerous curiosity that disappeared too quickly. That was no accident. The Empire feared us. When we touched the stars, we didn't beg. We conquered. We outthought, outbred, outfought. And when they tried to erase us, we vanished on our terms. Ilian clenched his fists. Images filled his mind. Not his memories, but echoes of another time. Men and women wreathed in plasma fire, minds interfacing with machines without wires, laughing as they dismantled godlike AIs, breaking gravity with will. Cities that sang. You were born after it all ended. The last attempt. The final blow. They destroyed Earth, or so they think. But they never found the tomb ships. They never found you. A pedestal in the center of the room lit up. A blade rested on it, plain, iron-forged, unpolished. He picked it up. It hummed softly, recognizing him. You've inherited more than blood, Baba Yaga said. You've inherited design. You were born with code, laced into your genome. Knowledge buried deep. It will unlock in stages. Slowly. Safely. If they catch you before it's complete, they'll dissect you. Not for revenge. For fear. The chamber shifted. A panel opened, revealing a wall of relics. Books, strange tools, and fragments of what looked like armor. Beside them, a mask carved of bone and steel. He took none of them. Not yet. You must understand, she continued. They don't fear you because you're strong. They fear you because humanity changes what it touches. We break limits. We infect systems. We turn weapons into toys and make gods bleed. You are the seed of that infection. He stepped back. The room dimmed. A surge of heat passed through his body. Not pain. Recognition. He touched the wall and the lights flared. His mind reached out instinctively into circuits, systems, data streams. Without training, without effort, the chamber's systems obeyed him. The voice returned. From now on, you'll be hunted. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you could become. The Empire cannot allow another human ascension. But they've already failed. You're awake. He stepped outside into the starlit clearing behind a mountain. The wind shifted. He heard voices in languages he'd never studied, yet understood. A carrier ship passed overhead. Imperial, scanning. He focused, eyes narrowing. For a second, its systems glitched, just long enough for it to miss him. He hadn't meant to do it. It just happened. Something had begun. He moved again, this time not just to run, but to test. With each day, his awareness expanded. He could feel machines' signals like pulses in the air, predict movement before it occurred. He hacked into a cargo drone using a whistle. He moved through security systems like mist. He found an old relay station buried in the mountains, silent for years. With a touch, it came to life. Data poured in, imperial routes, restricted files, redacted names. His name was one of them, not listed as a citizen, listed as a Class X anomaly. Termination authorized on contact. There were others. Dozens of entries, redacted, labeled extinct. All human. He wasn't a person to them. He was a virus. He smiled. Finally, he understood. The Empire convened in silence. High admirals, void clerics, and the chair of Inquisition met aboard the Sanctum Station, orbiting a dead star. The report was brief. The target had evaded annihilation, displayed Class X disruption capabilities, and manipulated pre-imperial tech without tools. That was impossible, yet verified. Worse, atmospheric scans recorded a psychic imprint matching the extinct genetic markers of Homo sapiens ascended. Humans not just enhanced, but evolved beyond measurable limits. The Inquisitor General broke protocol. It's him, the crone spawn. She broke containment. No one disagreed. Containment had been a fantasy. They'd left her alive because they thought age would end her before lineage did. That miscalculation now threatened their monopoly on power. Ilian didn't know about the meeting. He didn't need to. The moment they began moving fleets, he felt it. A subtle shift in the fabric of the systems around him. Like every machine was flinching in anticipation. He didn't need orders. He didn't need guidance. He knew what had to be done. He hit his first target in orbit over Juno 6, a surveillance satellite. He approached in a stolen transport, masked by radiation from the planet's sun. A silent approach. When the guards came aboard, they found nothing but empty heat signatures and false biosigns. By the time they noticed the core was compromised, Ilian was gone. The station collapsed into itself 3 minutes later. Its data broadcast redirected through a subspace carrier to an ancient relay station buried beneath the lunar crust. His second strike was bolder. A munitions factory on Harkin Minor. Automated, heavily shielded, believed unbreachable. Ilian didn't breach it. He convinced the factory it was under attack by a fleet. Automated defense systems rerouted. Emergency AI protocols kicked in. Then he fed it one command, buried in an old Earth dialect the system had forgotten, but still obeyed. Recycle. It dismantled itself to the bolts. Word of the sabotage spread fast, but attribution remained elusive. The Empire knew who, but not how. He didn't exist in their networks. Their trackers reported him simultaneously on opposite sides of the galaxy. Their algorithms failed to predict his pattern. He wasn't operating on tactics. They were watching instinct evolve. Ilian didn't care about chaos for its own sake. Every move had purpose. Every location he hit had been part of a long-buried program, Project Null Seed, an initiative designed to study human adaptability before the Empire purged Earth. Each site held fragments of suppressed data, sealed under religious edicts. With each strike, Ilian collected more. One site revealed the Omega Codex, a recording of the last council of human architects, detailing how they encoded future adaptations into DNA using quantum lattice maps. Another held a memory shard, an echo of his mother, young, speaking directly to the camera. Your mind will outpace your body. When that happens, slow down. Make the world match you, not the other way around. He watched that clip 12 times. The Empire responded. Not with more firepower. They'd learned that didn't work. They sent mimics. Bio-coded assassins shaped in his likeness, raised in labs, fed fragments of his memories. One nearly got close. It smiled just like he did, but it didn't blink. Not once. That was how he knew. Ilian burned it from the inside, using a feedback loop triggered through its ocular link. After that, he left messages. Not threats, warnings. You made me. You failed to unmake me. Now I will unmake you. Resistance cells began forming in silence. On dead moons and failed colonies, on rusted ships abandoned in the void. They didn't know who led them. They didn't need to. A whisper was enough. The human boy lives. They passed the name like scripture. Ilian, a name the Empire tried to delete. He no longer ran. He moved with intent. Where the Empire saw threat, he saw opportunity. Where they built walls, he saw doors. And in the darkest corners of the galaxy, old weapons began to wake, dormant since Earth's fall. Devices keyed only to one bloodline. His. The final act of the Empire's desperation came cloaked in ceremony. They declared an edict unseen in 1,000 years, Protocol Thanatos. It allowed the use of forbidden technology, full psychic warfare, and the reactivation of the Null Choir. These weren't soldiers. They were remnants of an old horror, people who had been hollowed out and filled with screaming minds to serve as weapons. The message was clear. This was no longer about containment. It was extermination. Ilian was already waiting. He no longer thought like prey. Every step he took rearranged the battlefield. Every silence was a trap. By now, the data he'd pulled from the hidden caches had reshaped him. Not physically, he still looked like a boy, but his mind stretched across systems, timelines, and thought structures alien even to the Empire's most advanced tacticians. He didn't just outpace them. He rewrote the rules they operated under. They attacked his coordinates on a fractured dwarf planet in the Kurian Belt. But what they found was a dead echo, an illusion crafted from bent light and false gravity. The real Ilian was light years away, standing in the forgotten control room of the original Imperial Genetic Archives, a vault thought destroyed during the solar cleansing. It hadn't been. His mother had sealed it. Inside, he found names. Not just his. Thousands. Human survivors scattered across the galaxy in stasis, coded into inert biopods, hidden beneath false identities. Farmers, laborers, children, each one carrying an unlocked piece of the human genome. He made his decision instantly. Ilian activated the vault's signal burst. Not loud, not showy, just a pulse. But to those attuned to it, those born of the same bloodline, it was a beacon, a memory, a call to wake up. Some died in their pods. Many more did not. Across forgotten worlds, sleeper agents stirred. Resistant cells found leaders. Scattered outposts lit up with synchronized data. Humanity wasn't gone. It had simply been waiting for a reason to return. The Null Choir reached him 5 days later, led by a seer wrapped in skin that wasn't hers. She didn't speak. She projected pain, decades of it, trying to overwhelm him. He responded with calm, not defiance, understanding. He'd learned their design. They were meant to devour thoughts. He gave them thoughts they couldn't hold, concepts layered in recursive paradox. Ancient human philosophies fused with quantum schema. They collapsed under their own consumption. He didn't kill them. They broke themselves. At the edge of Imperial territory, their fleets began to fall back, not from force, but from fear. Their AI command cores glitched with his name embedded in false code. Their predictive models began returning nonsense. Probability engines showed 0% success rates on every outcome. One by one, the generals ordered retreats. Not all obeyed. The ones who pushed forward vanished. Not from space, from memory. Their identities overwritten in the Empire's own archives by algorithms seeded years earlier by Ilian himself. He sent one final message. Short, simple. You should have left us buried. Then he vanished. No monuments were built. No declarations were made. But in the following years, the outer colonies began speaking old Earth tongue again. The word human returned to forbidden texts. And on some worlds, under careful eyes, children were born with impossible instincts. They blinked at machines and made them sing. They read languages no one had taught them. Ilian became a myth, a shadow. Some said he died to activate the vault. Others said he walked still, changing faces, guiding the reemergence one step at a time. But those who had seen him never forgot. Not because of what he did, because when he looked at you, you felt it. That humanity wasn't just back. It had never truly left.